My personal, belief is that that last answer is right. That the psychologist is the core of the treatment team, and we need a lot more harm reduction and ibogaine and other psychedelic familiar psychologists. So we got Star set up. So I'll turn it over to her. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for still being here. It's getting late. I just want to say it's an honor to be up here with these ladies, and they've brought up so many important points about what it means to be able to support our clients after the ibogaine actual experience. For me, again, like many of us in the room, this is a personal and professional opinion. Oh, I'm Star Morrison, by the way. I work with ibogaine, and I also am currently working with First Nations communities in the far north of Canada. And so I'm going to bring a little bit of that perspective into helping to plan aftercare, just a structure and a framework that works on so many levels, and not just for clients leaving aftercare, but just for human beings in general. So we'll just take a look at quickly on our journey today. I had to throw that in there. I like to crack some jokes sometimes. Lack of aftercare and its impact. What does it mean when we go home and don't have any kind of a plan in place? These ladies have outlined that clearly. It's one of the biggest mistakes I think that can happen, and it happens all too often, where people come in for a treatment and then they're just sort of like sent home. Thanks, bye, good luck. And I think that's really irresponsible. And I think that's something that really needs to change. I mean, there are some providers out there that are doing such a good job of maintaining support, ongoing support, follow-up, and treatment aftercare planning. And this topic is called Bridging the Gap because that's what we're doing. The treatment for ibogaine should start far before anyone ever walks in the door of a clinic. And that, from supplementation to support to training to education, and work with the families. This isn't an individual thing. When we have a dependency to something, it affects every branch of our life, and every branch of our life is affected by it. And so how do we support that healing as well? Because it's an ongoing process, not just for the client, but for everyone involved. The importance of developing an individual plan when someone's working on their own well-being, it's their own. And so they need to be involved in this process, and what works for one person doesn't work for another, and that's really important to remember. So I'm going to use the medicine wheel as a framework. I'll show you that in a bit. And also a tool that works really well for me, and I find it works really well for my clients, and it's called the Rule of 5. And really, it's a structure, very simple tool. It's a tool that we give. We have to give our clients tools when they go home. So we'll talk about that, and then a few conclusions. So I've heard over and over again from people who have done iboga and went home without an aftercare plan, and this includes for myself as well. I was simply lost. I spent 20-something years as an IV drug user and went home and had no cravings and didn't know what to do with myself or who I was or really anything. And so having no direction really was difficult for me. And so iboga is the catalyst, right? It's not the cure. It's not a magic bullet. It's something that gives us the opportunity to be able to take a look at ourselves and start to develop self-love and gratitude for what we have, because we're so blessed. But we've lost all that somehow, trying to self-medicate and trying to survive for whatever reasons, a multitude of reasons. My mom always pushed this idea of structure, and I didn't like that idea. I would try and get clean all the time, and she'd say, "You need structure in your life." Well, now that I'm a little bit older and maybe not much wiser, I realize my mother is always right. And I do need structure, and everyone needs structure in order to sort of navigate this transition. And that's what this is. So if iboga is the catalyst, what is the process after? What is transition? And Bridges explains it's actually a business model, but any transition, regardless of what it is, whether you're moving or learning to live a new life, you're going to go through this transition, and it has 3 stages. And the first one is letting go. And iboga really helps with that part. We let go physically of the dependency, and we start to learn that we're worthy of this love. We're worthy of this ability to move forward in our lives and start to live our purpose, if you will. It's a big word, but start to figure out why we're here and without all of the darkness. That's that first part. The biggest, most difficult and challenging and rewarding part is this middle part. It's the neutral zone. It's life, and so we need some help with that. And then the new beginning, and who knows what that is? I mean, I still don't really know what that is. I'm starting to figure it out 4 years later. And so learning to navigate through these transition is what I think aftercare means and what it is. So how do we do that? We need to set some achievable goals that support our client's agenda and not our agenda. I've been to many treatment centers, and they give sort of this whitewashed aftercare plan. You need to go to meetings. You need to see a psychologist. You need to eat right, and there you go. Or whatever. I mean, I'm minimizing it right now, but very basic and very not tailored to any individual. So I think it's important. So how to find a path, how to simply just have this discussion with our clients, because a lot of times coming in, we're definitely not in our full cognitive functioning, like it's not happening, we're using, and it's hard to sort of think about the future, first of all, because we don't even know what that looks like. For me and for a lot of my clients, what it means to not be dependent isn't a reality. It hasn't formed, like you have no frame of reference for what that looks like. So with First Nations communities, the medicine wheel is a tool, it's a teaching, it's a concept that's far too difficult to explain. I mean, it could be its own whole thing. But in this context, and the way I'm using it, is they believe that in order to have wellness and health, it comes with balance. And that wellness needs to come. There are different aspects of us, right? So the medicine wheel has 4 quadrants or elements: mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And for me, moving forward in my wellness, I know that I have to balance those things. And so in order to develop an aftercare plan that makes it simple when people go home, I mean, also, let me say, of course, everything that Deanne and Kristen were talking about is so important, and making sure you have the right therapy and making sure you have other things in place. What I'm talking about here is a very simple tool when people leave your clinic, because unfortunately a lot of clinics right now, the time of stay is short. It's 7 to 10 days, maybe, if you're lucky, 14. There are very few providers that are offering this holistic, extended, which I think, I mean, in a perfect world, that's what treatment, for me, I would like to look like. But yeah, so you have this short time frame, and you want to give them something that when they get home, going back to potentially unhealthy environments, unhealthy relationships. Things don't fix overnight because we decide to start to fix ourselves. So Giving them something to work with and using these 4 aspects, because I think they're very important in finding wellness and balance. A friend of mine's grandmother says, if you have the most beautiful chair, if one of the legs is missing, that doesn't work. 2 or 3, it's even worse. And if, you get the picture, right? So making sure that that's all balanced. Very quickly, we'll just look at a few of the elements of the medicine wheel. So in emotional, and this is sort of helping to develop what might be an appropriate plan. Emotional, it's about our intuition and our introspection and our insights, which is all being denied or disconnected is a much better word. Our mental, our intellect, our wisdom, our logic, all of that, we spend all day, every day trying to score or get money to do that. And so we've lost touch with these faculties that are so important to our health. Physical energy, wellness, our physical presence, taking care of ourselves, even as simple and basic as personal hygiene. Because for some people, that goes out the window, along with so many other things. And spiritual, quite obviously. And again, it's that disconnection. Gabor, Dr. Gabor Mate, amazing man, he says the addiction is the absence of connection. And not just connection with each other or with the universe or whatever you want to call it, but also from ourselves, very much so. And so finding a way to reconnect with all of these aspects, to me, is what aftercare is about. Aftercare is about learning to live life again without substances that disconnect us, right? Not all substances, just the ones that don't work for us and that don't serve us and that are negative, that can kill us. So what's the rule of 5? It's 5 daily achievable goals. It's simple. Develop it with our clients before, during, after. Sometimes things change. Their priorities, especially after their experience, are different, and they start to realize sort of what it is they want and how to work towards it. How does it work? You just try and get them done every day, and it works on multiple levels because, first of all, you're making a commitment to yourself, not anyone else, just to yourself. And if you're able to start to achieve these goals, guess what happens? All that the self-esteem thing people are talking about, we're lacking so much of, it's a simple tool, can help to start to develop that. It's something that we're doing. Hey, I'm doing this thing. And I told myself I was going to do it. Okay, on top of that, these are positive behaviors, right? We're trying to replace very negative behaviors with things that are good for us, with what we want to get out of life as we move forward. What makes it special? This is my favorite part. You get to start over every day. And so it's not this cumulative thing like, I missed so many days, like we do with the gym sometimes or something like that, so forget it. Every day, just try. Try and accomplish these goals that are for your benefit. And on top of that, if you only get one, you've got one. You've achieved that thing. You did something, right? And so it's very effective, not just for me, but for many of my clients. And if we have time, actually, I do have a client who's come in from France today who's very effectively used this tool. And if there's a few minutes, just for her to let you know kind of how it works or how it works for her. All right, so this is just an example, and this is what mine looked like. Obviously, some of these overlap. Some that are spiritual are physical. Some that are emotional and mental often go together. But try and come up with one from each aspect of the medicine wheel. And then that 5th one's just for fun. And for me, so exercise, of course, there I'd like to add the importance of orthomolecular medicine and supplementation, starting to learn what that is. I believe in aftercare for our clients is paramount. We want all the tools we can get. We want all the tools to help our bodies and our brains start to regulate and start to go back to a normative state. So there's that. Journaling, you know, I can't always get my provider on the phone because I'm freaking out in crisis. I can't always get a hold of my psychologist or therapist or whoever. So I need to be able to know that there's some sort of an outlet there. And I see journaling work day in and day out in the facility that I work in now with long-term residential clients, but also with iboga clients. Prayer, yoga, meditation, if you're not into that, you go to church. If you're not into that, I mean, whatever, something spiritual. Go for a walk in nature, connect, and learn something, or unlearn it. I just wanted to quickly reference Maya Salavitz's new book, Unbroken Brain, and it's about the concept of dependency as a learning disorder. It's like we've learned these patterns of behavior because they soothe us and they make us feel better. And so every time we felt not bad and we use this substance, it worked for us. And so we have to unlearn that behavior and learn new behaviors. And this is what this is doing. This is just like, again, it seems so simple and it's so powerful. And then for me, I sort of like cheated. I just got out of treatment, so I just don't use. That was one of mine for a long time. And so every single day I got to put that red check mark, and I actually did record it. And my provider at the time, I would send him text messages: 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 0 out of 5. But that's okay because I got to start again the next day. So, it just shows kind of some of them do overlap, and that's okay. So just in closing, well, almost. Making it work, how to make it work. Use the framework. Use a framework. You don't like this framework? Find one that works for you and your clients. This just happens to works for me, and it works for many of my clients. And so this is the one that I use. Being adaptive for individual change. Oh, this part's important. The rule of 5 is not static. So say, for instance, I have a lot of clients, it's like, make your bed. That's one thing. Make your bed in the morning. I never made my bed in the morning because why would I? Because I was just going to get back in it at the end of the night. So it's a powerful thing. I wake up, I make my bed, and when I come home at the end of the day, I have a nice bed to come to. My room's not a disaster. It's little things like that I find can really make a huge difference. And just teaching our clients that those little things matter, and they're little things, so they're so achievable. It's not like this crazy thinking about being sober or even whatever, abstinent or healthy forever. It's just like, I'm just going to do these things today, and we'll deal with everything tomorrow again, if we're lucky. So finding balance, making sure it's like the stool. Like I said, you take one of those chair legs off and things get wobbly. So like maintaining a connection with your support, which is part of all this. I'm not saying like just go home and do this. Like all of the things these ladies were talking about are also paramount to success in aftercare. This is, So, but maintaining that balance, maintaining the healthy support, and reassessment and revision. So if you make your bed every day, that's on your list, or your client's list, and then all of a sudden it's just like, they just make the bed every day, or I just do it now. Sometimes I still can't believe that, but it's not on my list anymore. My list is very, very different from the one I showed you now because I'm in a very different place, and my Maslow's hierarchy of needs has shifted dramatically because of the work that I've done on myself, and I see it happening with my clients as well. And they'll call sometimes, oh, I've changed too. One now is paint every day, or one is learn a song, or whatever it is, right? So it's constantly shifting and changing as you evolve and move forward toward wellness. So I just want to say special thanks to a few people. Of course, Claire Wilkins, a good friend and mentor. Trevor Miller, who I trained with and worked with at Liberty Route. And Gareth Moxie from Inner Realms, both who were my providers, who I wouldn't be here without them. And Livingston, an advocate for the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, who's also a mentor of mine. Of course, Howard and Norma and all of the other pioneers of this movement. We wouldn't be here today without you. Deepest gratitude. And just because the other Howard in my life, couldn't do it without him. And this guy is the greatest little provider you wouldn't even imagine. So thank you very much.